Hello, and on today's episode of the podcast, I've got the fantastic pickpocketer, which is legal, James Freedman.
Hi, Max. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Now, of course, you're a pickpocketer, but you do it in an entertaining sort of way. What made you decide to do pickpocketing?
Well, that's a good question. When I was even a bit younger than you are now, there was a program on TV called Parkinson, the Parkinson Show, and it was like the chat show. And of course, in those days, there were very few channels, so everyone watched it. And it said in the listings that there was going to be a pickpocket on Parkinson, and my dad let me stay up late on a school night or whenever it was to watch it. So I watched it, and there was a man called Borra, which is spelled Borra. And I didn't know who he was at the time, but I can tell you now he was the greatest theatrical pickpocket of his day, and the highest paid circus entertainer, I think, in the world at the time. And he stole stuff from people in the audience, and he didn't do his act. He did bits and pieces, and was interviewed by Michael Parkinson. And it was fantastic. So when I went to school the next day, I was trying to steal pens from my friends' pockets and take stuff out, steal their ties, because I'd seen him do all that. And of course, I was terrible and I couldn't do any of it, but I gave it a good go.
And of course, you do pickpocketing in a theatrical way. What makes theatrical pickpocketing different from criminal pickpocketing?
Give it back. I mean, that's the short answer. I suppose a pickpocket on the street just wants to get the stuff and not let anyone notice that they're taking it. Whereas the comedy in an act like mine comes from the fact that the person on stage doesn't know that I'm stealing from them, but sometimes the whole audience can see.
And of course, you've got your brilliant book, or can you see it? Uh, Go on, Steal Yourself, How to Become a Pickpocket. What
It's
made you
my
decide?
book, but they're Martin Rowland's hands on the front. He designed it.
What made you decide to write this book?
Well, it was lecture notes actually. So a long time ago, I think in 1999, I got a phone call from the Nordic Magic Congress. That's right, the Nordic Magic Congress, and in Copenhagen they met, and they said, would I come and lecture and do a spot in the gala show? Well, a spot in the gala show was okay, but I'd never given a lecture of any kind, so I had to think about what I was going to say and write it down. And I'm not sure I had anything to say that was too interesting then or now, but it's all in that book. So it was really that book actually is the bold techniques of how to take all different types of watches and how to steal a tie and how to empty anything from any pockets or steal a belt. And I think it's much better actually to learn sleight of hand, because it is a form of sleight of hand and misdirection, from a book. It's always better to do it from a book than a video. And I was lucky because there weren't any videos when I was learning it. So, books was the way you had to go. Or if you were lucky, you saw someone like Borrow once on the Parkinson show. Don't forget, Max, we couldn't record it then. The videotape hadn't been invented. So you watched it once, tried to remember, and then tried to copy it. If you learn from books, you always put your own stamp on it rather than just copying or echoing the person you're watching.
And of course, your show is entirely audience coming up and you stealing the stuff off. How to decide which audience member is better for your routine?
That's a really good question. I mean, I've tried hard over the years to do things that don't involve getting the audience up, even though I'm going to pick some pockets later. So the first thing in my act and my stage show and my cruise act is always the same, and it's a version of a trick called "It's a Hold Up," which you might know as popularised by Tommy Wonder as Ring, Watch and Wallet, and Ben Simon's just released his Ring, Watch and Wonder, which is great.
The one where you put the ring, your watch into the wallet, into the envelope, you rip it up, and then they're back on the hands.
That's it. Well, I don't do it with a ring, and I use a phone and some money and my watch, but of course, perfect for a character like mine on stage. So that's very important that they can see that I do something without anyone on stage. Because if you're introduced as a pickpocket, no one in the audience will want to come up and help you. And I'm always introduced as a pickpocket. But importantly, the introduction is he's here to show us just how he does it, which takes, I hope, the challenge out of it. And that's my version of Boris' introduction, actually. He used to say, I'm here so you can stay safe from pickpockets.
And of course, you've been performing for a while now. What is the most
Because
expensive
I'm
thing
old.
you What is the most expensive thing you took out of like being pickpocketed? Like, was it like a credit? Like, was it like a credit card? Was it like a diamond ring? Like, what was it?
It was a diamond and other jewel encrusted bracelet in the shape of the Prince of Wales feathers, the fleur de lis, and I stole it from a lady who kept asking me, "Oh, you couldn't take this, could you?" At the National Gallery some years ago. And afterwards, when I'd given it, said I'd stolen it and given it back, her husband said, "Oh, I'm glad you gave that back." And it was £250,000 worth of diamond bracelet that had been given to her great 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 grandmother by the then Prince of Wales. So it was an historic piece. But I've also stolen the King's watch, and it was a very nice watch, and who knows what it was worth. But it's a nice story.
And what is your favorite celebrity or VIP you've ever performed to?
Oh, I don't know. Um, the favorite celebrity I've ever worked with was Helena Bonham Carter. Um, but she was just the best student of pickpocketing amongst all the actors I've ever taught. And that was for a film, the film of Les Miserables, where she played Madame Thénardier. And there's a very small pickpocketing scene in there where she's chatting up a army officer in her pub and trying to get him drunk and steal his money. In fact, I've got the notes, the money from the film, which I managed to obtain after the shoot. But she said to me, how does a pickpocket do it? And other actors have just wanted to know the physical moves. But she started with, what is the pickpocket thinking? Where are they looking? She really went, deep on it. And as a result, at the premiere, someone from the press went up to her, and I think it was the Times, and said, "I understand you've been studying pickpocketing." And she said, "Yes." And he said to her, "Can you pick my pocket now?" And she said, "I could, but I won't. But I can tell you, you've got an iPhone in that pocket and you're carrying a wallet in that pocket, and I can see you." And she just, was brilliant. So, yeah, that's my favorite.
And what is one mistake you see young people who are trying to do pickpocketing? Like, what's one big mistake that you see them doing?
Um, well, I don't know. It's not just young people. That's my first thought. I've seen some young people who I think absolutely have the makings of a pickpocket, and I think the world's crying out for a female pickpocket. So any female performers watching this might bear that in mind. I think it doesn't suit everyone. Same as mentalism doesn't suit everyone, or manipulation or patter doesn't suit everyone. You've got to find your niche. You have to be quite a touchy person. If you're a hugger naturally, then I think you'll be a better pickpocket than if you're someone who shakes hands and keeps distance, because you've got to get close to them to take anything out of their pocket.
And what is something about your act that audiences never seem to notice, but is the most critical part about your show?
Something audiences don't notice. Well, it's I don't know that it's critical, because everything in my act has gone wrong at one time or another. Like every little step has gone wrong, which is good. In looking back, it's good. At the time, it was horrible, because when something goes wrong, I'm the sort of person who comes off stage and says, "Right, that went wrong. How can I stop that ever happening again?" And I remember Alan telling me a story about Channing Pollock, who was appearing at the Pigalle, which was a club at the end of Piccadilly, near Piccadilly Circus. And I performed there before it closed, years and years after Channing Parlour. Nice club. Anyway, he was performing there and was introduced and started to walk on stage and slipped over on the dance floor, which had been covered in chalk to make it easier to dance and harder to walk. And afterwards, Alan went round to see Channing, and Channing was there with his shoes, cutting the soles of his shoes to score them with a knife, just, to rough them up a bit. And Alan said, "What happened?" And Channing said, "I don't know, but it will never happen again." And then Alan told me the secret is not to cut your shoes up. It's to take, I think they call it resin, that violinists use on their bow, and put that on the shoes, and it makes them slightly sticky. Now, I don't do that on my shoes. They've got rubber soles, which they didn't have in those days. But I did once fall over on a dance floor, and I wish I'd known then. So to answer your question, something audiences never notice. A few years ago, I was appearing at the Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh as part of the Edinburgh Magic Festival. And I wanted to get a picture of me standing on stage with my arms out like David Devant in the image with all the audience. And the only way I could get that picture that I could think of was to video my act from the back curtain. So I just put my phone on the bottom of the back curtain, filming the whole show. And the first show, it ran out of memory. And the second show, I had a disaster and it fell over. And anyway, by about show 4 or 5, I got this video. And there's a still from it, which I use in my publicity, of me like that and the whole audience lit up. It's a nice picture. But that meant I got a video of my act from behind, which I'd never seen before. And it was actually an education to me, and I'd say probably a good idea for magicians as well, to film your act from the worst possible angle, because it's really interesting to see, oh, look how I take that out of his pocket, when the audience can't see it. Or I actually sometimes use the guys on stage pocket as something, just somewhere to leave something until I show it later. So I'll steal it from an inside pocket or take his watch off or something and just leave it in his outside pocket, because the outside pocket's the easiest one to take it from when I want to show the audience. So that's something the audience never see, but nothing's critical in my act. There are things that will be quite annoying when they go wrong, but everything's gone wrong at one time or another. Mistakes are good if you learn from them, I think.
And what part of your performance fools the most magicians?
You've got some really good questions, haven't you? What fools the most magicians? I don't know if any of it does. There's a bit in my act, I don't always do it, but if I need a few seconds for something else, then I'll be talking to the chap stage right on my left, on my stage left on my left, and I'll say to him, excuse me, and as I start the sentence, a phone rings in my pocket. And I go like that, take the phone out and say, if you turned your phone off when you came into the theatre, you wouldn't know that I've stolen it. And then I answer the phone and have a conversation with whoever's ringing. And I say, oh, no, he's got some friends in, and I hold the phone up. Well, the whole thing, I've never explained this, Max, so you've got a scoop. The whole thing is a fake. I've got a little ringer in my pocket, and I can make the phone ring whenever I want. But the number of magicians, and other people, but magicians too, have said to me, I was there the night the phone rang in your pocket and mucked you up. And I say, oh, yeah, you were. I remember that. But it happens, every other show.
Have you ever thought about being on Fool Us?
No, they asked me in the very first series, and they have asked once since. I don't think I'd fool them. I mean, my act is, I work so hard to make it. I'm not trying to fool the audience. We're going along for a ride together. And whilst I think Penn and Teller are fantastic, and the show has done huge amounts to promote magicians and magic, I'm just slightly uncomfortable with the premise that all magic is tricks that can be explained, because I think some of it is and should be inexplicable.
And what is one of your, because of course usually pickpocketers are illegal. So here's another question: what's your favorite magician of all time?
Oh, well, David Berglas would definitely be up there as a mentor. Bora as a performer who was a magician to start with. I think I haven't come across a theatrical pickpocket who wasn't a magician first. Um, so Bora, David Berglas, Max Malini, uh, probably Maurice Vogel. Lots of names at the moment. I think Jack Rhodes is taking magic in a completely fresh new direction, and that's great for magic.
And what's one book every magician should read? And you can say your own.
It's definitely not mine. A book every magician should read. You can't really go far wrong. You've heard me say this at the YMC. Harry Lorraine's Book of Magic is a brilliant book, not just because it's got fantastic magic written by a good magician, but when you read it, you don't have to slog through it like some magic books or old magic books where you're trying to understand what they mean. It's just like he's chatting to you across the table. And I read it when I was still at school. There's still things that I do now, which I read in that when I was at school. So Harry Lorraine's Book of Magic would be right up there. But another book, which people sort of hear about and then discount, is a book by Martin Gardner, and it's called The Encyclopedia of Impromptu Magic. So it's just stuff you can do with things that are around. And it's in order, alphabetical order by object, really. So you can say, there's a pair of scissors. Oh, here's a trick with a pair of scissors. And it's not always a trick, it might be a stunt. So if I remember a stunt in there with a bottle. You take a beer bottle and you stick it to the wall of a pub or wherever you happen to be. But pubs used to be, where beer bottles were, and stick it on the wall. And I remember reading that and not even trying it. Years later, the situation, I go, I wonder if that works. Oh, it does. In fact, last time I lectured, well, maybe not the last time, but one of the times I lectured at the YMC not that long ago, I showed everyone pushing a straw through a potato. Do you remember that? Were you there for that?
I was not there.
It was, you take a paper straw, a paper one, not a hard
Wow.
plastic, and you push it through a potato that isn't gimmicked. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? Edward Hilson was round at mine, and we said, oh, I wonder if this works. In fact, we were looking up a different trick. I wonder if that's in Harry Lorraine's book. Looking up a different trick, and on the next page was that potato thing. So I get some straws and tried it. Turned up at the YMCA with a load of potatoes. It was, yeah. So the Encyclopedia of Impromptu Magic, because it opens your mind to all, you can do tricks with anything. And my dad used to say to me when I was young and living at home, he'd be about to throw something away and he'd say, oh, can you do a trick with this before I throw it away? And he didn't mean, can I do a trick there and then? He meant, can you make it into something or is it useful? Because he hated throwing anything away because he lived through a war and no one who lived through a war threw anything away ever. So he'd say, can you make a trick out of this? And it sort of became a family joke. Oh, can you make a trick out of this? But I, thank him forever because someone can give me anything and I can do a trick with it. Like, next time I see you, anything, I'll do a trick with it. Might not be a very good trick, but I'll do something.
And if you had to start over all over again, what would you do differently?
I'd be a merchant banker. No, if I had to start again, I would probably go professional sooner. I had a career in something boring before I, ran away to show business. And I'm glad I did because it taught me the business side of business. But I'd probably go professional sooner. I would collaborate sooner. So I didn't start properly collaborating till I was, grown up, and I should have been collaborating when I was young. But of course, there was no internet and connection. Now it's easy to find people. You can collaborate with someone on the other side of the world. Then it was just, who's your circle. And what else would I do? Say the question again. What would I do differently?
If you were starting over again as like you had no props at all, if you had like literally just the clothes on your back and literally as everyone else, what would you do differently?
Um,
Like, would you make a website? Like, what would you do
oh, I
differently
see.
to how you started?
Um, I don't know. I don't. I think I would just study harder at the magic. Someone said to me once, an actor said, "Just be good. Be as good as you can possibly be, because if you're good, they will find you." And they, he meant, audiences and bookers and people who might want to hire you. So just try and be as good as you can. And of course, that's in work, but in life, very simple rules: be nice, be kind.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No, thank you for asking me. It's an honor.
Just got one final question. Where can people see your fantastic show?
Most of my work is sort of boring corporates and stuff that people can't get into. But I have just confirmed that I will be doing a short run in London later in the year. So if people um, go on my website and say we want to be notified, they can sign up there. Or I'm not a great social media person, partly because I do all this work in fraud prevention for police forces and stuff. So I'm not all over Facebook and those other things.
What is your
But
website?
well, it's jamesfreedman.com, or if it's easier to remember, pickpocket.co.uk, because I'm the only pickpocket in the world who wants to advertise. So I've got the website.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No, Max, thank you for asking me. And can I just say, you are doing a fantastic thing for Magic. So more power to you. Have you asked uh, Robbie Stevens, the chairman of the YMC, to be on this?
I have not. I will. I'm
Yeah.
going to the June Member of the Month, so I'm going to shoot them a message there.
Oh, fantastic. You should definitely ask him. And I can't think of any magicians worth hearing that if you sent them a message, they wouldn't say yes, because what you're doing is brilliant. So go out there and keep doing what you're doing. I'm enjoying it very much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for
Pleasure.
watching the podcast.